What's up, fam? This is the day that the Lord has made, and we're here to rejoice and be glad in it. Hope you're doing well on this day. Hope you've been blessed. Hope you're prospering. I hope you're sane and still remaining productive. Of course, we're in some unprecedented times, and we're navigating some uncharted territory. But through it all, we got to believe and know that this is not uncharted or unprecedented for God. And I want you to know that. Have your faith in that. Find confidence in that. That it's weird for us with pestilence and famine and craziness and the instability in government. Certainly nothing is shocking to God. Paul says in Romans 8, for those whom he did foreknow. That means that God has foreknowledge. That means God knew us beforehand. And what I love about it, God not only has foreknowledge of us, but God has foreknowledge of the world, Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end. So just be encouraged by the fact that this is not a shock to God. And God is still in control. Even when it seems like things are topsy-turvy, please be encouraged that God's got this. I want to just share that with you because I know sometimes you watch so much and sometimes we're not careful. We can begin to absorb what we observe, and it can really mess you up just emotionally and get you off kilter. But be encouraged and let that faith center you. The fact that God is in control, God is not shocked, and God will see us through. So I want to thank you for your support of our ministry. Of course, you know we've been doing media ministry for a very, very, very long time. I will tell you how old I was when I started working cameras, and how old I was when I started doing editing, and how old I was when I had my first radio and television broadcast. But I don't want to be depressed today, so I'm not going to tell you how old I was when we started doing media ministry. But what I can tell you is God has been faithful through us, to us, and still is blessing us right now. And a couple of weeks ago, we started something, a new outreach initiative of the House of Hope, of our media ministry, and it's called the Hope TV. We started this just as an outgrowth to try to minister to people and to bring some positive programming throughout the pandemic. And what started as just a feeble effort to really stay in contact with our local community at the House of Hope has really grown and it's evolved, and the growth has been absolutely exponential. I want to thank you for that. We're celebrating 2 weeks of the Hope TV, but we've been doing this kind of ministry now, an outreach for about the past 3 or 4 weeks, actually since March 19th. So we started March 19th, and from March 19th to where we are now, we have about 15 different weekly shows that are all flagships and staples of the Hope TV, and we're adding more content. So we're offering about 5 or 6 shows per day and broadcast per day that seeks to minister to us from a physical, spiritual, emotional, mental perspective. We're also dealing with politics, civic engagement, just a plethora of things that we think can be a source of encouragement to you. And I hope you've been inspired by it. If you have, why don't you consider subscribing to the page now, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Hope TV. You also can subscribe to the YouTube channel of House of Hope Atlanta. And also you can subscribe to the YouTube channel of Dr. E. Dewey Smith. So I want you to subscribe to those 3 channels now if you've not yet done it. The Hope TV, make sure it's us, the Hope TV. Also House of Hope Atlanta, and the YouTube channel of Dr. E. Dewey Smith. I certainly appreciate it. If you follow those, it'll give you updates as to when content is loaded. And also you can follow the Hope TV on all things social media. We have a Facebook page that you can follow. We have Instagram and Twitter page of the Hope TV. Please follow it right now while you're watching. Take that moment. It's growing, and I appreciate you. So the Hope TV, make sure you follow those pages right now on all things social media, the Hope TV. Do it right now. Get your phone. Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. You know you'll forget it. Go ahead and do it now. Also, if you're not following the House of Hope Atlanta, as I said earlier, you can follow our YouTube page, House of Hope Atlanta. You can follow us on all things social media at House of Hope ATL. Do it now. And also E. Dewey Smith, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at E. Dewey Smith. And you also can follow me on Facebook, the official page of Pastor E. Dewey Smith. So thank you for doing that. You blessed us, and I want to thank you for that. Also, let me thank you for your support of our outreach ministry. As you know, we've fed thousands of our senior citizens groceries over the past couple of weeks, And now we're excited because of your support of our outreach ministry. We've been able to partner with 3 local hospitals, and now we're providing food to our first responders, those doctors and those nurses who meet those prerequisites, all who are working over 12-hour shifts. We've been fortunate and blessed because of your support that now we can actually minister to those first responders. So they've been blessed and they're so inspired just to just try to do something to be the light of the world for them. And your support has made it possible. So thank you again for all you're doing during this time. Please pray for your church, pray for your pastors and your churches, all our churches, because we're doing the best we can to navigate these waters. And it's not easy being in a place we've never been before that we weren't prepared for. So, but I know you're going to continue to do that. Keep us in your prayers. I appreciate it. Huge shout out to our media ministry and our technological ministry at our church. Our technology and media ministry are doing a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious job in making sure that we can stay in touch with our community and those who support us. I'm so honored to serve with you guys. Shout out to Wallace Prude and Benton Latin and all your teams, everybody on your team for what you're doing. You guys have made it possible for us to really share positive content and inspirational encouragement to people all over the world. So from my heart to yours, thank you, gentlemen, and your teams for all you do to help us during this time. I'm excited today because, you know, I believe that God has called us to richly enjoy the things of the world. You guys know that I love my faith. I'm proud to say I'm a child of God. I'm proud to say I'm a Christian. But, you know, I also believe in balance. You know, I'm an avid sports fan. I love music. I'm a music aficionado, musician, grew up in the church playing music. So I love God. I love football. I love music. I love all those things. And sometimes people don't think you can integrate those realities because you got to be one or the other. But I'm excited today to interview a young man who embodies all of the things that I believe that are important. Share some of the same values. He's a native of Texas, grew up as a country boy there in Texas, and in church, you know, as a musician, and being taught hard work and those ethics, and because of his gifts, he was able to earn a football scholarship at Southern Methodist University there in Dallas, Texas, and just excelled academically and athletically there while at SMU, in so much that he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers after completing his degree from SMU, and he majored in economics. His minor was in sports management, and then in 2012 he also received his master's in organizational dynamics. And so this is a guy has been learning and growing, drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing left tackle, and it's such a beautiful thing. And he's entering into his ninth, almost 10 years into the NFL. He's played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and most currently the New York Jets. Just an incredible brother. He's been involved in trying to eradicate hunger around the world, being an ambassador for World Vision, also investing resources in that regard to try to help eradicate hunger. He's been that guy. He's been so important and an integral part of trying to help our children in minority and disenfranchised communities, trying to help our children, those who want to be just taught and empowered in the area of science, technology, engineering, and math. And so he's just a thinker. He's a believer. He's a father, beautiful wife. Jessica, they have 3 wonderful children. And I wanted him to come on because he's dear to my heart. We pray for him every week throughout the football season, my team and I. And I'm just so happy to have him on today to take time out of his schedule. And that's Brother Kelvin Beachum. What's up, Kelvin? How you doing, brother?
Doing well, brother. That introduction was way too long.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm a preacher, so I'm used to long introductions, and maybe I heard something. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. Can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Well, every time I talk to you, I think God's going to do something else in your life once football is over with. So maybe the long introduction is my prophetic introduction to what may be coming in the future. So how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. Family is well. Kids are well. I'm healthy. You know, after the season, it always takes some time for the body to kind of rebound and bounce back. Um, and it's finally starting to get back to kind of that in season form, getting ready for the rigor that is going to be taking place whenever the football season happens to open up. With the current situation right now, I don't even know if there is going to be an NFL season this year. So
Right.
preparing myself and my family for whatever happens here in the near future.
That's great, man. I want to kind of tell the whole story. I look at it chronologically. You are from, like me. I'm from a small town in Georgia. You're from a small town in Texas. Grew up hard work. I mean, I've seen you. Uh, we've talked before. I've seen you on your way out to help fix cars or the farm.
Yeah,
Tell us a little about your upbringing, your background. I think it's important. I want people
yeah,
to know who you are, where you're from.
for sure. So Mexia, Texas, Mexia. You got to be country to say it right. They said Maher in the country. But Mexia, Texas, only about 7,500 people. Not a huge town by any means. Had a couple lights. Um, Grew up, Kojic. I know you know that particular denomination extremely well. Had both parents in my household, so was blessed to have both a father and a mother. I was the oldest of four. We're kind of stir steps, so I'm 30, my sister's 29, and so on and so forth. It was a blessing to have both parents. In the Kojic denomination, you know how it is. Your mama's a Sunday school teacher. She is the missionary. She is the praise and worship leader. She cooking in the back, getting the food ready for the dinner after service, the whole nine. Dad was the organist. I was on the drums. My brother was on the bass, and sisters had the tambourine. So that's really all I knew growing up. My dad was an automotive technician. He learned how to work on cars from my grandfather. My grandfather is still my pastor at Cameron Chapel Church of God in Christ there in Mexia, Texas. But he learned how to work on cars via my grandfather. My grandfather has been blind for over 70 years and taught my dad actually how to work on cars. So have a very special family and very special history, just due to my grandfather, my father, my mother, who were very adamant about making sure that we had a great education. All four of us all went off to college. Three of the four of us, well, all four of us got scholarships. All have degrees. Two of us have masters. But our parents told us that the only way to go to college and the only way to get out of Mexia was to have either an academic scholarship or an athletic scholarship. Those are our two options. Not to say that Mexia was bad or the country way of life was bad, but there were only a couple options in Mexia. It was either work at Mexia State School, which is a state-supported living center for mentally challenged individuals. It was work at Walmart, or it was go into the field and go and till the land, or go and raise livestock. So those are the three options that we had in that small town, and our parents were very adamant about finding ways to expose us and to get us out of Mexia. And for me, the way out was an education and an opportunity to play football. Now, again, I told you I'm Kojic, so my grandfather didn't believe in missing church to go play football and play basketball. So it was many conversations that my dad and mother had with my grandparents to make sure that we were allowed to go and prosper in something that was outside of me beating the drum or my brother playing the bass. So understand so many dynamics that happen within the church and sports. But for me, it was a special moment. A couple years ago, my grandfather was actually able to attend one of my football games, the first time ever. Attending one of my football games. We were playing the Houston Texans. I was playing for Jacksonville at the time, and he doesn't fly. He considers himself to be in the B class. I'll be here when you get here, and I'll be here when you leave. So he doesn't fly. So we drove him up to Houston, put him up in the box, and him and my grandmother got to enjoy an NFL game for the first time. So for me, that was a special moment, considering everything coming full circle, coming from where I came from. Being able to play in front of him, even though he can't see, he was able to hear the broadcast and hear the fans, and it was a special moment. But Mexia is dear to me. I've done a lot of work there, continue to do a lot of work there, but that's my home, man. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
So when you were in high school, did your grandfather come in your high school games?
None,
None. So
none.
his first time ever seeing being a part of a game was when you were in the NFL.
NFL, NFL.
Wow. That's
Again, that happened. That was in 2016. So I was
wow.
20, 26, 26 at that time. And we played all
Wow.
sports, football, basketball, ran track. Sisters went to state, won state championships. Brother went to state. Um, but he again, if we had a game on a Friday night, there may be a revival happening on Friday night. He got to be at that revival.
Yeah.
If it was a game happening on Saturday, he got to get ready to preach on Sunday, so he can't come to that game. We played AAU basketball growing up. AAU basketball sometimes takes place on Sunday, championships on Sunday, and it'd be
Absolutely.
time. We would miss church to go and play some of those games. And again, had a phenomenal father and an absolutely wonderful mother who stood in the gap for us when it pertains to having those conversations with him. But again, that's I wouldn't trade those type of experiences for anything. They're who I am. They've made me who I am. My faith and the ability to know where to go and who to call and how to get in touch with the Lord and how to get in touch with my source comes from my grandfather. I mean, even to this day, 92 years old, can still get on his knees and pray. And I think that's such a special thing. So I learned a lot from him. But at the same time, understand the times have changed. This is not the 60s and 70s anymore. This is 2020, and some things have changed. And one thing that hasn't changed is the Word of God and a way to pray. And he's been sure to make sure that is deep down in my soul and deep down in the fabric of the Beachum family.
You know what's amazing? I've talked to you at least 2 or 3 times over the past couple of years when you were on your way to the shop to help your dad,
Mm-hmm.
or you get ready to do something with, because I know you raise livestock. I remember when you bought a farm and bought some land because you're raising, I think, bulls.
We have some beef masters, cattle,
Yeah,
type
cattle.
of cattle.
Yeah,
Beef masters, and we got Angus.
yeah, right. So I'm talking to you on the telephone, and we're chatting about whatever, and you're on your way to help your dad at the
Mm-hmm.
automotive shop.
Correct.
I'm talking to you on the phone, and you on your way to the land, ranch, whatever, to where the cattle is.
Correct.
I mean, it's mind blowing that even with a master's degree, a professional athlete, travel the world class athlete, that you go back to Texas, and you can go right in there if dad needs some help to go hold the shop down for him while he's doing something. So I think he was doing something one time we were talking.
Yeah.
And you were at the shop still working on cars. Make that make sense, please. I mean, you're talking to a guy who can't change the oil probably in my car right now. So help me make sense of that.
The thing is, man, when I go to Mahia, I'm Lil Kelvin. That's the association that I have when I go back home. Is Lil Kelvin. I wear the same clothes that I wore when I was back in high school, patched up jeans. I got an ain't it. They won't even patch up the jeans no more because they can't be patched up no more. I put those jeans on, I put the same shirt on, and I go and do what I'm supposed to do. When I come home, when I go to Mahia, I stay at my parents' house in Mahia. I stay in the room. My clothes are in the closet. I got the same shoes. And any child that goes back to Mahia, you're expected to go and work, even being grown, having kids, being married, what have you. If you're gonna stay in the house, you're gonna go work. So that's just what the way that our family has been raised. That's the only way that I know. So when I go back to my head, it's no we're gonna sit and watch TV and you're gonna be so my mama always say you're gonna be sucking up the air in the house. You ain't gonna be sucking up the air in the house. You're gonna go work. So whether that's going to the shop, cleaning the shop, and the thing is, it's not like you go to the shop and you sit down at the shop and you wait for something to happen. You better make yourself useful while you're at the shop. So if it's a transmission that needs to be pulled, or you got a brake job that need to be worked on, or the floor need to be mopped or be swept, you're gonna go sweep the floor. You're gonna go mop the floor. If that the grass is growing up high around the fence row, you need to either go get a lawnmower or get a weed whacker. You need to go be working on getting those weeds down. If the cows need to be fed, you need to go in the back, put some feed on the back of the 4-wheeler, and take the feed over there and feed the cattle. If you got a cattle that a calf or a heifer that done jumped out. You got to go find a way to get that heifer and bring it back. So, those values for me have helped, for one, keep me grounded. And my mama can, at any point in time, she can still slap me upside the head. My daddy can still chastise me at this age, because that's a level of respect that I have for my parents, even as a husband and as a father. My parents are still parenting, and if they see me doing something that they feel that they need to correct as a parent with how I parent my kids, they say something. So, I know that may sound old school to some extent, but for me, that's all I know. And I wouldn't change that for anything. No matter where I go, no matter who I meet, what part of the world I'm in, my parents still expect me to be Lil Kelvin. When they call me, I better answer the phone. I still talk to my parents every single day. So for me, what's going on in the current environment, this isn't anything new for me. I talk to my parents every day. So it's not like, well, you need to call your parents, this is the time to make sure you reconnect with your family. There's no reason to reconnect with your family if you're always connected to your family. That's just like saying we need to get back close to God. If you never disconnected from God, this is just another time for you to spend more time with Him. So, that's, again, this is all I know, man. This is all I know. So that's just how things are when I go back home. And when my parents come to my house, it's yes sir, no sir, it's no ma'am, yes ma'am. I get on the phone. If my daddy say, "Hey, come go give me something out the refrigerator," I go get something out the refrigerator, just like I did when I was a kid. You know, and that's for me. That's just how it is. Sounds weird, but from in this current climate in 2020, but that's just how it is for me.
Well, what I appreciated about it, man, it just reminded me of home because I love the fact I'm from Macon, Georgia, and me being from Macon, Georgia, God has allowed me to travel the world and preach the world, and preach all over the world and meet people. But not, and I love Atlanta. I love Metro Atlanta. I love the city. I went to school here. Moved to Atlanta 30 years ago to come to college.
Mm-hmm.
But can't nothing take the place of Macon, Georgia. It's who I am when I go there. The food, the people, the culture. And so when my mother-in-law got married a couple of years ago, and when my mom, after my mom's death, my mother-in-law, at the same time had moved away, so I didn't have home. And
Mm-hmm.
so she moved, got remarried, and moved from the only home that existed after my mom's death. And I had a hard time. Had a hard
Mm-hmm.
time dealing with that because I didn't feel like home. My sister still lives there, and I got other relatives, but I'm talking about a place that I consider home. And my mother's, she's gone, and so when I go to Macon, I go to my mother-in-law's house now. That's home,
Right.
and the nostalgia and the peace. So when I talk to you on the phone, and you tell me about you still sleep in the same room that you slept in, you know, when you were growing up, it's just I connect with that in so many ways because I think people are so busy trying to get away from what made them that it's a ground in there, man. It just made me appreciate you even more. I mean, here you are there doing the work yourself and not hiring anybody to do it, and not puffed up or cocky or arrogant, but still able to go and serve. It just says a lot about you, and it just blew my mind. It really did, you know. Uh, and then when I met you in college, I came to preach down a Sunday night service, and you for Bishop Bush's church.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing drums in the Kojic church as a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
my pastor when I was in college, before I started pastoring, I remember Kojic church, so that's all I've known,
Right.
Dad's church, and so grew up. So when I came and we met, exchanged pleasantries, and kind of hit it off, and we began to talk, and I found out you were an athlete, and I think you were finishing up, you just finished up your senior year, I believe. I think you were getting ready to go into the
Undergrad.
draft.
Well,
Yeah, and
undergrad
we
was
were
getting
talking.
ready to go to the master's. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking, and I said, and we talked, and I asked you a question. I said, man, what do you want to do? You're gonna get drafted. You're gonna believe God for that. And you said to me, I want to get drafted. I want to get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, and that's what you said.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play in Pittsburgh. It was no, you weren't uncertain. You just felt resolute. I'm going to Pittsburgh.
Right.
And lo and behold, you came out of SMU and you end up going. You talk about your conversation with Mike Tomlin,
Yeah.
and you end up going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. How did that feel? What role did your faith play in all that in terms of even getting drafted? Coming from Mahey,
Yeah.
you know,
You know,
yeah. How did that work? How did that evolve?
I would say before we even get to the faith aspect, I was pissed off first and foremost because I got drafted so late. But it was it was a challenging time, and I think it was the first time that you realize and you understand how God works and the timing in which He works. And it's not all perfect. I thought I was going to be drafted within between at least the third and fifth round. It ended up being in the seventh round, 248, a couple picks away from Mr. Irrelevant. Um, so for me, that was a challenging time, and it was a time that I was in isolation as well. I remember being in my apartment. I was dating my wife at the time, but I was in my apartment by myself when I got the call, and it was a very interesting time. I just came back from Jacksonville, Texas. It was a family reunion happening in Jacksonville. I want to say that's Saturday. I think it was Saturday. A Saturday of the draft. I was coming back from Jacksonville, and started getting calls from as a free agent. During that time, people were starting to consider me a high priority free agent. This is kind of the last day of the draft, and finally got home. Was really in a very difficult position. Didn't have no big party or didn't have no draft party, anything of that nature. It was just by myself. Called my parents and was telling them what was going on. But ended up getting a call. Got the call from the Steelers, and it was a joyous moment. But there was also some human emotions that were also going on as well. I mean, when you play this game, you have a sense of pride, and when you feel slighted, you also have a sense of pride as well. So to get the call was amazing. It was an amazing experience, but it did test my faith, and it tested my fortitude, and it tested everything that I'd ever been taught. Especially growing up. But I think it came to, in college when you have to make a decision, have a one-on-one and a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and I think that's what helped me as I got drafted, as I had to start making transitions, and as I had to go to Pittsburgh. So it was an interesting process. There was a lot of emotions going on. I wasn't one of those guys that got to go up and shake Roger Goodell's hand and dap him up and hug him up and be out on ESPN. I was in the comforts of my own home. So some people think that it's all glitz and glamour when they think about an NFL player. That's not the case for everybody, and that's not the case for me in that particular regard. I was the fourth pick in the seventh round for the Steelers. So the Steelers had 4 picks in that round, and I was the last of those 4 in that round. So I still carry that connotation with me to this day. It's still a very touchy subject sometimes because I've been able to, and I'm not going to say God has allowed me to be able to last a lot longer than some of those people that went in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth round. So it's been a blessing to see how God has worked not only during that point in time, but how He's continued to work year in, year out, and has allowed me to stay in this game a lot longer than many people thought. Allowed me to play a position that many people didn't think that I can play. A lot of people thought I was too small to play the position, wasn't tall enough to play the position. And God has allowed me with supernatural, abilities to play this game at a very high level. So it's been a lot of emotions that have went through this entire journey. I can't point and say that, I had it all right. I knew exactly where I was going, how I was going to play out. I was going to get drafted in the first round, and, everything was going to be, flower beds of ease. That's not the case. But it was a lot of emotions that happened during that point in time, and still are happening. I'm in the same position now. I'm not employed. Well, my wife keeps saying I need to stop saying that. I'm currently not under contract with the team right now. With everything that's going on, things have been bogged down. They're not flying people out for visits and free agent visits and things of that nature. So this is the same position that I was in almost 9 years ago. Not knowing what the outcome is going to be, not knowing who's going to call, where I'm going to go. Will I have to keep my family here in Arizona while I go and play for another team? Just a lot of emotions that go on during this journey that everybody thinks is beautiful, which it is. but there are also a lot of emotions. And I know you've done a lot around mental health. There's a lot of things that are happening in your brain, in your heart, in your soul that go into this journey as a professional athlete.
Yeah, it's amazing when we had that conversation because here you are drafted in the seventh round and by the Steelers. You're disappointed, thankful, disappointed, bittersweet. You get there, and as you said earlier, most it's not guaranteed that you're gonna make it anyway, but you have a higher priority of
Yeah.
making it if you drafted higher. You're in the seventh round
Correct.
for the Steelers, and you go there and you make the 53-man squad your first year, and by your second year, you're a full-time starter.
Correct. Correct. I mean, I ended up starting.
Man, that's not
Uh, it's not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. Again, when people ask, well, how did you do it? It's really praying, knee bone street. It's believing God. It's seeking God. It's asking for forgiveness. It's repenting. I ain't gonna say that I've been living this perfect life. I done sinned. I done fell short. It's repentance. It's praying. It's the whole nine, and that is what's allowed me to get to this point. And it's also having a mindset. When I got drafted, I bought my parents Tahoe. I packed that Tahoe up. I drove to Pittsburgh because I wasn't coming back home. There was no other option. It was going to Pittsburgh. I'm gonna find a way to make this team. I don't know what it's gonna take to make this team. I started a fight on the first padded practice because I'm gonna find a way to fight my way onto this roster, and it worked out for me. And I've been fighting, fighting ever since.
you start the fight. You start the fight.
I started the fight with Cam Hayward, one of my good friends. Good friends. He's an all-pro defensive tackle, one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League.
He's
Cameron
from Georgia.
Hayward, me and
He
him
played high
had
school
a
in Georgia.
yeah, played high school in Georgia, went to Ohio State.
Yeah, yeah.
Dad was Ironhead, and he
Yes,
was a
sir.
he was the baddest dude, baddest youngest dude on the roster at the time. So if you're gonna find a way to make a name for yourself, you might as well go after the baddest. So I went after the baddest, and every day, we would end up lining up against each other, and it was either going to be a fight or one of us was going to win. And that was a battle and a friendship that developed over the years. I mean, me and him last year was so ironic, man. We were when the Super Bowl was down in Atlanta a couple years ago. I was actually came by the church, um,
You did.
and there was a Walter Payton. We were both Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees, and we got to spend time with each other during that time. Spending time, family spending time with each other, doing some community service work together. And it's crazy how things have come full circle. That was the guy that I was fighting. We both trying to make a name for ourselves. I'm trying to make the team. He's trying to prove that he wasn't a early round bust. It was amazing to see us now. Him being an All Pro, again, one of the best defensive linemen in the league, and us serving in different capacities. He's still serving in Pittsburgh. I've served while I was in Pittsburgh, served in Jacksonville and New York. And we're now, at the Super Bowl on the field prior to the Super Bowl, getting honored for the work that we've done on the field. So again, you just don't know how things will work in your life. But for me, it was really all about the relationship with Christ and the relationship with God has really been the connective tissue. I wouldn't even say connective tissue. It's been the everything that's allowed this journey for me to even take place.
It's amazing because you started some games your rookie year.
Rookie year. So I ended up starting at right tackle. I started 6 games
Yeah.
my rookie year. Ended up my first start was against the Baltimore Ravens. Ben Roethlisberger had got hurt that year, and that week Byron Leftwich was hurt. So the third string quarterback was Charlie Batch, and Charlie Batch started the game. We were, in the middle of the season. I think we were kind of on the verge of either making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. And that game versus Baltimore was a pivotal game, and ended up going to Baltimore and winning that game. And that was kind of my coming out party. And I think his first impressions matter. And I guess I had some good first impressions against Terrell Suggs and Paul Kruger with the defensive ends that I had to play that particular week, and ended up playing, I think it was Sunday Night Football, and made a good impression. And that was kind of the momentous moment for my particular career, and kind of what kickstarted my career.
That's great. I mean, you go to Pittsburgh as a 7th-round pick, end up starting 6 games your rookie year, and you're the 4th pick for them in the 7th round, and you're taking the 4th pick that they have. It's just an incredible story. And and I was able to come and do some chaplaincy service for you
Yeah.
guys. When you guys came to Atlanta, and let me come speak to the team and the organization and people. Some of the things that you did in the organization and some of the craziness, but you navigate that whole space in Pittsburgh, then traded to then signed with Jacksonville. You know,
Yeah.
that how was your faith in that process when it was time to go and time to get a bigger contract? How
For
did
sure.
faith drive that?
The thing was in 2015, that was my contract year. Going into that year, I actually had an offer on the table. Me and you actually talked about that offer at the time. When I had it on the table, passed on that offer, and 6 games later, I blew my entire knee out, ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Had no idea what was going to happen, but I think that was a moment for me that really brought me back. You talk about home, it brought me back to reality. And I don't think that many people realize that the game of football is very distorted. My wife said this earlier today, that the perception that we as athletes have on reality is distorted by the nature of the game, the nature of the game of football. And my reality was really cracked and shaken through that time. Had a very substantial offer on the table in 2015, blew my knee out. Ended up going to free agency in 2016, and had a couple offers on the table. Had an offer from Pittsburgh, had an offer from the Jets at the time, and had an offer from Jacksonville. Um, and it was difficult to make the decision because my wife had just started nursing school at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. We had just had our first daughter, Kalina, in 2014. It was just a lot going on. And to pick up and actually move down to Jacksonville, it was very hard for our marriage. It was very hard for my relationship with my wife, very hard for my relationship with Christ. It was a very difficult position, that to have the career that I had there in Pittsburgh, to experience the highs that I had, and then to hit rock bottom in one play. Was a very difficult position. And one thing, it brought me back to reality. It brought me back to how important family was. My mom came up, she was with me for 9 days straight. And that was the first time that I spent 9 days with my mom since I had left, in that Tahoe back in 2012 when I got drafted. So it was coming full circle. And I remember crying in my recliner. The recliner is actually back over there. Crying in my recliner. How could this? Woe is me. How could this be me, man? I had 2 pecan pies, and my wife's best friend set me up. I'm sitting in the chair eating pecan pie and watching Westerns with my mama. And she told me the way you treat your wife is so important. And early on in my marriage, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't the best husband. Young husband, young and married. Just didn't know how to be a dad, didn't know how to be a husband, learned on the way. And again, I think that time was necessary for me at that point in that season in my life. And it built my faith. It wasn't easy. By no means was it easy, but I think it did a lot for me as an individual, and as a dad, and as a Christian, as a believer, and as a follower. And as I went to Jacksonville, that period of my life was very difficult. Coming off the knee injury, came back extremely fast, came back too early. It was a 12 to 16 months recovery process for the ACL with a total knee reconstruction. And I ended up starting in about 8 months, playing against the Green Bay Packers for my first game there in Jacksonville. And ended up having to get my knee injected near about every single week just to play on Sundays. Literally dragging my leg around the field. Just wasn't ready, but was too prideful to say no. I know we talked about it before we got on here, some of the issues that are going on with the church right now, and how we are addressing COVID-19. I can say the same thing. I knew I shouldn't have been out on the field. Knew I shouldn't have been playing. Knew I wasn't ready. But was going to find a way to go and push forward, and did that, and found a way with the supernatural power of God to be able to play the whole season. Started the whole season. Didn't miss nothing but a couple snaps. But the faith was tested, and then the faith was really stretched when my wife is still in Pittsburgh and I'm in Jacksonville by myself. She's flying in school during the week. She would come down on home games, on away games. I wouldn't see her. So it's again a new baby. So it's a lot of different dynamics that were really changing and my life as an individual and my life as a married man, going from Pittsburgh, going to Jacksonville, playing hurt the entire year, no family, no support, no backbone. You know, nobody to hold at night after we losing as many games we were losing in Jacksonville. You know, it was a difficult time. But through all of that, through every step that I've been in this process, the faith, the Word of God, praying on my knees, shutting in, all those things, fasting, the whole nine, all those things have been integral into me being who I am today and the type of career that I've had today. Has been really based on those principles.
Man, the reality is, you know, I say we're incurably human. We're incurably human. You know, we're all works in progress, and so many of us can identify. I can relate in a lot of ways, and so many people watching that, you know, in our humanity and that duality that we have, and wanting to do things, but emotion not being in the best place, but trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how do you improve, how do you get better, and here you fast forward now and just played with the Jets, had some injuries this season, but you're healthy, you know, beautiful wife. Now you've gone from that one baby, now you have three children,
Yeah.
and you know, getting ready. And what does life look like for you now?
You know, it's beautiful. You know, to be able to have breakfast with my kids every single morning, to be able to take them to school every single day, go and work out, handle some business. You know, for a couple hours a day. My wife is working on on her degree, and well, not her degree. She already got the degree, but being able to go and practice and be able to practice in different states. She's doing her thing, going and picking up the kids every day, coming back home, having dinner, doing bath time. You know, all those things for me are so important, and I think can sometimes get away from you if you don't watch yourself. And sometimes we as a people can get really idle, and those things don't become as important. But for me, during this point in time, it's been so imperative to be able to spend that quality time with all of my kids, one on one. Whether it's me teaching my daughter how to ride a bike, whether it's teaching my son how to blow bubbles, with the little Walmart special things, it's whatever. It's finding ways to spend time with your kids and be creative. I mean, even this Friday, my daughter, every year we have a daddy-daughter dance, and it's usually put on my Lifetime. Lifetime usually have like a daddy-daughter dance, and you dress up. So just with everything that's going on this year, we haven't been able to get that done. So this Friday night, I'm actually having a night in Paris. Me and my wife going, decorate the house, and I'm gonna get dressed up, and my daughter's gonna get dressed up, and we're gonna have a daddy-daughter dance. So it's one of those things. This time is being used wisely, and you could use your time during this shutdown, during this lockdown, to look at the news every day, all day, flip between CNN, Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC, or you can use this time to grow your faith, uh, deepen your relationship with your wife, your husband, your kids, work on your personal development, get in some books, listen to some podcasts, work on ideas, work on things that have been sitting on the shelf for a little while. But for me, it's been using that time wisely. And trying my best to use that time wisely. For one, it's been making sure that my relationship with God is first and foremost in a great place, making sure that my relationship with my wife is in a great place, investing in my kids in as many ways as possible, and then finding ways to grow personally. So it's been a great time. Death is never easy, and mortality has been all around us in so many different ways. Friends that have family in some of these hot spots around the country. But at the same time, God has been so gracious and so merciful to me and my family, and not only my immediate family, but my extended family as well.
You know, you've done so much. You know, when you talk about investing and spending time with the kids, you know, you've done so much even in terms of investing in STEAM programs for children. You know, and marginalized and you know, minority communities. What birthed that for
Correct.
you?
I think when you think about this concept of the digital divide, and you can see it as clear as day right now. Um, you have the haves and you have the have-nots, and it's as simple as that. I don't know how it is in Atlanta, But I know, here in Arizona where I'm at, and some of the places that I've played at, whether it be Pittsburgh, whether it be Jacksonville, whether it be New York, if you're in Short Hills in Jersey or you're in Livingston, New Jersey, you got internet. If you're in Newark, New Jersey, you don't have no water, clean water, you don't have no internet. If you are in Duval County down in Jacksonville, if you're on the north side, you have no internet. If you by the beaches and living in a condo, you're perfectly fine. If you in Texas and you living in Dallas, you living on the north side, living up in Highland, High Park, what is it, what's Highland Park? If you're up in Highland Park, you got internet, you got water, you got fresh food. You don't need no food bank. But if you're down in South Dallas, you down in DeSoto, you down in Fair Park, it's completely different story. And that can be the same for so many metropolitan areas. And when you think about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you have young people that either have access or they don't have access. And for me, when I saw those disparities, I had to do something about it. And for me, I've tried to stay in my lane around, the vertical of making sure that people have access to food with the Hunger platform that I've tried to establish, and making sure that people have access to the right education. And STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And if you think about what's going on from a macro standpoint and a micro standpoint, and our markets, everybody, want to know what's going on with the 401k, HRA, IRA. Those are a lot of tech stocks that are really struggling right now. And the tech stocks are some of the biggest stocks in the world: Apple, Microsoft, all these big giants. And the thing is we have young people that could be the founders of those types of companies. You talk about generational wealth. You can't have generational wealth, working at McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with that. But why not have generational wealth by making the automation that McDonald's is using to be able to put the food out? So for me, it's like I saw those opportunities for our young people. And I'm like, why can't people that look like me go and find opportunities to go and build, to go and create, and to go and build wealth for themselves? You talk about the economic and the wealth gap that's in our country. That's a way to be able to close the wealth gap, is to be able to be a software engineer, electrical engineer, a sound engineer. There's so many different opportunities within the whole tech scope, where I feel that if you want to be great at math, want to be great at engineering, want to be great at technology, building those types of systems, you can go and be able to build a phenomenal life for you and your family. And not only a check to check, a month to month type of thing, but you can have a career. You can be making $300,000, $500,000, $1 million being a software engineer, being somebody that's being able to impact the tech ecosystem. And for me, I've been very passionate about that. It's been something that I love. It's been something that I've learned a lot about, and something that I've learned that there's a lot of disparities between who has access and who doesn't. So for me, that's kind of the why behind that. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something I'm going to be doing long after I'm done playing football, because I really do feel that that's a way for our people to be able to acquire the wealth. And the thing is if you want to go and be a doctor, go and be a doctor. It's so many ways to build wealth, but I think that to build that generational wealth that we all hear about and that we're all talking about, if you look at the market is really driven by a lot of tech-oriented companies. And if we can make sure that our young people at least know about it, they're exposed to it, they're aware of it, I think it just puts us in a better position, because again, it's those who have access and those who don't. And for me, I have access. So how do I make sure that I provide that access and exposure to other people who look like me? And for me, that's been the preimpetus on why I've done that and why I'm going to continue to do that.
The last couple of years, you invited me out to the Silicon Valley, for these big conferences in June, and I hadn't been able to go. But I tell you, the next time, you go out there for those summer conferences, those weeks when you're out there and learning about those companies and investments, I'm gonna take you up on the offer next time. And because
see, what I'm gonna have to do,
you're so right.
I'm gonna have to pay for the flight. I'm gonna have one of your people pick you up, get you on the plane, and I'll be there to pick you up when you get to San Francisco to make sure you get there.
I'm coming.
All right.
Because you're exactly right. And I've been promising you I'm coming, but this time I'm coming because we got to get the information. And you're right. And it's an opportunity with the playing field. Once we get the information, and our people are so creative. That's one of the beauties.
No doubt.
One of the blessings of this pandemic is our genius comes to the forefront You know,
Mhm.
necessity is the mother of invention. And if we
Mhm.
just get the same access and opportunities, man, there's no telling what we could do. I mean, in terms of tech, and you're exactly right. You
No
know, as we
doubt.
get ready to transition, you know, there are athletes who have not been as prudent as you are. There are people who are trying to navigate this season. You know, what bit of advice, and you share so much, and I thank you for that. Always resourceful, always insightful. You've been a blessing in my life in so many ways. I don't have time to talk about them. I just the things that you have encouraged and the investments and the time, the energy, the resources. I can't even begin to imagine. You know, and the prayer that I have for your life that God's going to be a blessing to you. You know, the Bible says you give a prophet a glass of water, you reap a prophet's reward. Just your time and your energy. It's just been a blessing to me. But for those who are watching, who are struggling through this season, and in a moment of indecision, sort of like what you are right now, trying to figure
Mhm.
out the next chapter. You know, those who can admit they made some mistakes, whether it be in their marriage, like you have, like I have, like some others have. How do you get back up, and how do you keep going? That's the question. How do you keep going?
You know, I think it goes back to the concept of just simple repentance. It's repenting to our Lord and Savior. It's being able to be humble enough to say you're wrong. You know, if you chastise your child and it wasn't warranted, or you thought they did something they didn't, just a simple concept of saying I'm sorry, I shouldn't have did that. Just a simple act of repentance, I think, is so important during this point in time. And then I think too, from a tangible standpoint, it's being able to develop some type of routine. I'm a routine oriented person in general. That's just how most athletes are in general. Is you're very routine, and everything is kind of it's the same thing every single day. I can eat the same breakfast for years at a time. That's just and it's how we can be wired in some senses. But I think to be able to find some type of routine and then be able to own your time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, and it's been great to see how House of Hope has found a way to utilize all that time in the day to be able to provide all the services that you all do. But I think on a personal level, it's finding ways to develop that same type of schedule. If your thing in the morning is to get up and brush your teeth and take care of your body and do that, you know, that's time you got set aside for that. Next thing is devotion. You got time set aside for devotion. If it's time for prayer and meditation, it's time for prayer and meditation. It's time for you to go get a workout, go get your workout. But for me, I think you have to be able to provide some type of routine for yourself. So you have something to go back to each and every day, no matter the outcome or the results, or no matter what the news says, no matter what Facebook has to say, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, what have you. If you have a routine that you can go to and you can point to and you can do the same thing every single day, you can always go back to that. I think it's very helpful. And for me, that's how I've structured things. I only have calls 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 4 o'clock. Those are the times that I have my calls. Is devoted to my business. Is devoted to the things that I'm working on, kind of post career. And then during the week, I'm finding ways to read and scheduling and marking out that time. You know, every Tuesday and every Friday, me and my wife sit down at 12 o'clock noon, 12:30, and we actually have Bible study. We pull out the hymn book. We go through our devotion, and we find a hymn to be able to either talk through or sing through. And it's finding ways to put those little moments into your life. And when you have that routine, it's something you can always lean on. It's something you can always go back to. So again, I think the first thing is being able to go and repent to God, to those around you. Then secondly, is just finding ways to have some type of routine that you can always go back to.
Man, you are an incredible brother, incredible Christian, uh, and a wonderful human being. And I just thank God for your life and Jessica and your beautiful family. Thank God for both of your upbringings because it's, you know, not only has God blessed you with a great family in terms of your mother, your grandfather, grandmother, your siblings, but God gave you an incredible woman at your side who whose spirit, whose values, you know, continue to add to what, you know, you had your whole life. And it's a beautiful thing, you know, that you married right. You know what I mean? Even though sometimes we may not make the right choices or maybe, you know, you got somebody who adds to your life. And
Sure.
God was with you in that decision too, I believe. So I just speak God's blessings on you and your family, your career. I pray that the next chapter, once the dust settles, that God puts you in a place where you can thrive continuously and be blessed and continue to be the man of God that called you to be, because you are what our world needs. Not just a great athlete, but you're a great man. You're a great human who just happens to play football. So I just thank God for you, man, and I thank God for your time. I hope you can come back later date. I'm gonna try to get on your schedule to come back and share some other stuff with men, because I think it's important that we hear your story and your journey, because you inspire me. You know what I mean? You inspire me. I'm almost 20 years your senior, but you inspire me and you encourage me, and I thank God for you and I appreciate you. And just keep on doing what you're doing, my friend.
Yes, sir. We'll do.
Hey, family, you guys been watching One on One with Kelvin Beachum and I. Hope you've been blessed by it. And if you have, won't you consider subscribing to the pages and also following us on all things social media. We're excited about it. If you know somebody who needs some inspiration, some encouragement, send this link to them, like the page, and let them know that some positive stuff is on the airways that can feed your spirit. Continue to feed your faith and starve your doubts. And whatever you do, always remember this: if you be good to God, God will be good to you. Till we meet again, take care, peace. You've been watching One on One. Go with God. Peace.